Welcome back to a brand new episode of the Post Game. I'm your host, Davon. We are back with our Week 1 college football recap. What an outstanding weekend filled with ups and downs from different teams. When I look at this weekend, I think this is a perfect start to the start of the college football year. And this is only 8 games that I chose. 8 of the more important games of the weekend, in my opinion, and I know Tennessee and Syracuse are here, and people are like, "What are they doing on this list?" But I'm going to talk about it. I want to talk about pretty much everybody on this list. Are going to get at least a second of my conversation. So thinking about it. So starting off with the game from Sunday night, Miami versus Notre Dame in Miami. Carson Beck's first game in Miami. I personally thought it was an outstanding game from Carson Beck. I thought it was an outstanding game from that Miami team as a whole. I think their defense was something incredible that I haven't seen in a long time. And I think if we look at that Miami team last year, the biggest issue for Miami last year was their defense. I mean, Cam Ward came out there and played and put up 40 points a night. Carson Beck, I don't think he can put up 40 points a night, and so he's going to need this defense to do a little bit of something. And I think last night they showed you that they can actually do so. Another issue another thought that I had last night while watching that game is that, Notre Dame looks very one-dimensional. They look like the same exact team from last year. They look like the team who relies on their quarterback to get out of the pocket. They have Jeremiah Love here, who's one of, if not the best running back in the nation. And then you have receivers who just aren't really productive. Like, I know that, C.J. Carr was 19 for 30, 221 yards, 2 touchdowns, but that wasn't great. Like, that wasn't a great showing from the receiving room last night. I'm not saying that C.J. Carr played bad. I'm not going to say that whatsoever. He had his interception, and it was what it was. But I felt like their offense was just one-dimensional, was very flat, was very stale, and couldn't really get going. And I think that needs to be better if Notre Dame wants to go far this year in college football. If they want to go to the playoffs again this year, they have to figure out how to get their offense more productive. And I think, yes, it's week 1. I understand it's going to be a lot of ups and downs. Blah, blah, blah. I get it. But, Miami looked great. I think they dominated. There was a point that got a little consistent, got a little conservative, got a little stale. I think, you can't do that if you're Miami. You got to learn how to put your foot on their necks and really try to dominate the rest of the game. They were up 21-7 going into the fourth quarter, and they allowed 17 points in the fourth quarter. Not good enough at all from Miami if they want to be a productive team this year. But big ups. Both of these two teams will be a top 10 team going into week 2 of college football, regardless. Looking up next, we got Georgia Tech versus Colorado. The reason I put these two teams on this game on this list, is because in my opinion, Georgia Tech is a top 3, maybe even top 4 team inside of the ACC. I think a lot of people have slept on Georgia Tech for such a long time that people are going to start understanding exactly what that team is. This Georgia Tech team are going to be very competitive inside of the top, inside of the ACC. They're going to beat your teams that you don't expect them to. And SMU, if I'm SMU, if I'm North Carolina, if I'm Clemson, I'm watching out because this Georgia Tech team has a quarterback who can really deal it, and not even just deal it. Hines King flat out ran 19 carries, 156 yards, 3 rushing touchdowns. 45 was his longest. I mean, yes, it goes back to the one-dimensional stale offense, but I think, if they can get their running back going, he had 16 carries for 65 yards. It's not good enough. It's just not. That's just not good enough at all from your starting quarterback or starting running back. So he has to definitely be drastically better. But I also want to talk about Colorado. No security blanket in Travis Hunter. No security blanket in Shedeur Sanders. This is a pretty much completely new identity formed team. I get it. I think this Colorado team isn't a team you should be laughing at. Isn't a team that you should just be like, oh, we don't have to worry about them this season. Not at all. I think they're still a team that can be competitive inside of their conference. I think they're a team that are definitely going to have to be looked out when it comes to the later part of the season, because I think once they get get going a lot more faster, they'll be much better. And so, yeah, I think both of these teams, Colorado and Georgia Tech, are both 2 good teams that we'll have to look out for this year inside of college football. The next game, South Carolina versus Virginia Tech. As a South Carolina Gamecocks fan, this was a great start to the season. I think you look at the offense LaNorris Sellers dealing this weekend. Absolutely dealing. And genuinely impressed by the way he passed the football pretty early on in the game. I think South Carolina's defense showed up and showed out. Yes, I know the O-line gave up that safety in the first quarter. That was what it was. And then those 2 field goals, and they were what it was. But they didn't allow a touchdown in the game. That's outstanding from the defense from South Carolina. If they can start faster this season, if they can start earlier and all click from the same side, I think we're seeing a South Carolina Gamecocks team that wins 9, maybe even 10 football games this year. I'll stand on that mountain by myself. I think the South Carolina Gamecocks can be a 9 to 10 win team, and they just need to continue to do what they did against Virginia Tech. Because the Virginia Tech offense didn't look horrible. I don't think. South Carolina's defense did get 2 takeaways, 2 interceptions, which was great for them. But again, they can start rolling earlier. They will be a team that you will definitely have to look out for this upcoming season. Moving on, Syracuse versus Tennessee. I want to talk about Tennessee real quick. I was under the impression, and it's still early. I was under the impression that this Tennessee team was going to take a year off. They were going to, take a dip a little bit. Yes, it's week 1. There's not much to go home about. We can't really say this, that, or the third yet. But I was under the impression that they were going to be able to score 45 points. That's a lot of points against a Syracuse team that, finished the season off pretty well. Beat Miami at home to keep them out of the college football playoffs, or the ACC championship game, which college football playoffs. I didn't think Syracuse were going to be this, not bad. Bad's a horrible word to say, but this allow this many points. I'm interested to see how Tennessee plays against SEC teams. I think that's going to be the real test for them. And it's just going to be a lot of fun to sit here and watch all of these guys play up in the next couple weeks. Jump to the biggest game of the weekend, the biggest upset of the weekend, biggest upset in a long time. Alabama, Florida State. You look at Alabama versus Florida State, we see a conundrum. We see a team that are a complete shell of themselves, a team that have lost all framework and ideology about who they are. They don't have an identity. They didn't have a sense of pride. They didn't have a sense of urgency. They didn't have a sense of anything. That Alabama football team looked horrible this weekend, and there's no debate about that whatsoever. They looked horrible. And any Alabama fan, any college football fan who thinks less of that, no. Do we blame Kalen DeBoer? I don't know. But, as him being the head coach, he has to start taking some of the blame for it, because what I watched this weekend was horrible from Alabama. You have a team, and I'm going to be real. I'm going to be blunt, and I'm going to say it. You have a team that's coming off of a 2-10 season, and you lose 31-17. Or, let's be real, 31-10. This was an absolute joke from Alabama. This was a complete embarrassment from Alabama. If they don't become better, they will lose more than 4 games this season, because their schedule does not get easier whatsoever. Alabama still has to go play Georgia, Tennessee, South Carolina, LSU, and Auburn. You could be sitting at 4 to 6 losses on the season if you look that bad. And so I think Florida State. Do we sit here and give them a push right now? Do we put them back in the top 25? I personally cannot do it yet. I think for me, I need to see more. Or actually, no. I will put them in the top 25. But I think people ranked Alabama too high. I also think that they ranked Florida State right where they should have been. They won 2 games last year. I don't personally think that. I need to see one more outstanding win before I go home about it. I mean, because Florida State doesn't play anyone crazy. They play East Texas A&M next week, Kent State, Virginia, then it's Miami. Florida State and Miami, that's going to be the game to really decide if this team is back or not, because their next 4 should be 4 wins, without a doubt. And if anything, if this Florida State team is the real deal, then they should, they got Miami, then Pitt, Stanford, Wake Forest. Right there, you should be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. They should be 7-1 if they lose to Miami. Then they have Clemson in Florida, Realistically, they should finish with 3 losses. I mean, if you can steal one from Florida, Clemson, or Miami, you're sitting at a 10-2 record. And this Florida State team is back to where they were 2 seasons ago. So who knows? I mean, it's all about consistency. And if Florida State can be consistent, then they will be fine. But moving on, LSU, Clemson, in Death Valley, the Clemson Tigers haven't lost a home opener in 4 or 5 seasons. LSU haven't won a home opener, or not home opener, a first game of the season in 4 or 5 years. LSU go in there. Garrett Nesmeyer goes in there and deals them, does his job, wins the football game. And I think that is what it was about the quarterback play. Cade Klubnik did not play great, but that is what it is. First game of the season, I think they'll be fine. I think Clemson's one of the best teams, if not the best team in the ACC, without a shadow of a doubt. 16 returning seniors there on that roster. But my hot take right now is that if Clemson doesn't do it this year, if Alabama fires Kalen DeBoer, then we will see Dabo Swinney as Alabama's new head coach. Regardless, that's a different conversation for a different day. But this LSU team, to me, they've done exactly what they need to do. They have developed from last season. Garrett Nesmeyer can close out football games. Also, LSU were cheated out of a touchdown. I'm not gonna let that go to sleep. But this game, this team today, or this weekend, showed me that they are one of the best teams in college football, and they will jump into the top 5 after this week. I'm so excited to see where the AP poll is and where AP puts some of these teams, because it's such a luxury weekend. I think 0 points in the second half from Clemson should be completely embarrassing at home. For them to score 0 points at home, night game, season opener, it doesn't make sense to me. I think their offensive play calling became a little too conservative, which a lot of these teams are just doing these days. They're just becoming very conservative, which doesn't make much sense to me. But LSU goes out, gets the win, and that's a big win for LSU. Next up, we have Texas, Ohio State. I said that Ohio State would have won this game, and they did. It's a good prediction from myself. I don't think we need to start ringing the alarm bells yet on Texas. You look at Texas, they have Arch Manning. Without his name, he's another quarterback. So give the kid some slack. Arch Manning's first ever away starting football game. First ever. I think you should give them guys some slack. I think, Texas and Sarkisian made it a little too overcomplicating for him. I think Arch Manning should have been put in a system where he should have been able to succeed, and I don't think that happened for him. And I completely blame Texas Shane Steichen for that. Not Shane Steichen. Yes, it is Shane Steichen. No, Steve Sarkisian. Sorry. I completely blame Steve Sarkisian for that, because how do you put your best player, or how do you put your young quarterback? Because that's what the game was. It was 2 young quarterbacks, very young quarterbacks, in a starting role, who have to go out there and figure out what it is, and have to go out there and figure out how are we going to win this football game. And we saw that Ohio State put their quarterback in the best possible situation. Jalen Singin, whatever it is. They put him in the best possible situation. They kept the offense conservative. They made sure that every single thing that he did was to benefit the team or himself. Because the minute that you overcomplicate it, the minute you have him doing all this outside of the pocket or deep ball or whatever, that's the minute that they start to fail. And that's what happened with Texas. Granted, listen, you got 2 of the best teams, if not the best 2 teams in college football, in Ohio State and Texas, playing against each other on week 1. It's great football. It is what it is. And you can't really be mad about this loss. I think both teams should go to the drawing table and look at their offense, because Texas or Ohio State did win this game, but they didn't get their receivers going. they didn't get the best wide receiver in the country going. So they need to definitely do that. They need to figure out how are we going to play as a team? How are we going to really get our players going? That's the biggest question mark for me. Um, and then Iowa State versus Kansas State. I put this in there. Two top 25 teams in the Big Ten going at it, battling it out. Kansas State gets to win against Iowa State, and that's a great start for their season. A lot of people are really sold on Kansas State. Kansas State did not get it done. The season is not over yet by any firm of the imagination. But can Kansas State continue to battle back? Can Iowa State continue to keep marching? Those are the questions. But that's my week one for college football recap. Let me know what you think down in the comments. It's going to be a fantastic year for college football, and I'm so excited. But yeah, let me know what y'all think down below in the comments. Peace.